What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Beyond the Sign, a real estate podcast. I'm your host, Frank the Bank Gropman. With me, as always, is the Tattooed Realtor, Tanya Blake. How you doing, Tanya?
I'm good, Frank. How are you?
Good. Everything's good. I've been busy. I mean, work seems to be picking up that time of year, summertime.
Yeah.
How about you?
I've been doing good. I've had a lot more listings coming on lately, so that's always good.
You've been real busy. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, this time of year, I mean, traffic, unfortunately, around here is never good, but
nightmare.
Yeah, it's still busy. That's good. Good to see. Yeah, we're on episode 6, guys, so really appreciate everybody tuning in and liking and subscribing. So why don't we jump right into the Property Pulse? What do you got this week for us?
All right, so let's talk about the Plymouth real estate market again.
Nice, yeah, let's do it.
I'm seeing a little bit of an interesting shift. So inventory is rising. We have 128 active listings right now.
Wow.
And that's compared to, there was only 99 last year.
Yeah.
So there's a 29% more. There's 29% more homes on the market.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Compared to last year.
Yeah.
So homes are also sitting a little bit longer. The average days on market is 28 days. And pending sales are down a bit. Year-to-date pending sales are down to 4.85%.
Yeah.
Suggesting that buyer activity is cooling slightly.
Yeah, around 5%. I mean, we've talked about that a little bit in a lot of the towns. It seems like things are staying on the market a little bit longer. Pending sales are a little bit slower. So, it's kind of, and the inventory is coming up too. So it's kind of what we talked about a lot with like the steadying of the market.
That's
so,
right. That's right.
So.
Even sold prices have surged. So the average sale price is up over $69,000 year over year. Now sitting at $753,000 with a price per square foot climbing over 6%.
Okay.
Price changes are way up. There's been a 40% increase in price changes. So in listings that have reduced their price this year.
A drop in their prices a lot, I've noticed. Yeah. I feel like it's been one of those things where we've done it, we've seen it. Listing's been on the market a little bit longer. So what do?
Yeah, they're just dropping the
price.
price.
The price. The more inventory typically means the prices will follow. So it's surprising to see that prices increased in Plymouth, but it's also, I think, lagging a little bit behind. We're seeing more inventory, more price drops. So that average number probably will come down.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
That's kind of what we've been seeing across the board.
Yeah,
here,
yeah. We're seeing more of like a balanced market in Plymouth.
Yeah.
But it's still strong. Not quite as frantic as it was last year, but buyers are now taking their time and sellers are aiming high, but they're giving concessions when needed.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I've seen some different national news similar to that. Some of the stuff that I've read, CNBC in particular, had some different things about the rates, and the Federal Reserve met this week. So Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve Bank, the Fed, actually kept rates the same this week, even though there was some pressure from Trump and other politicians to drop the rates, but which, we talked a little bit about, rates and things like that. But yeah, I've noticed that as well. So
yeah.
Well, that's all we got for the Property Pulse. Why don't we jump a little bit into the Mortgage Minute now?
Yeah. So according to bankrate.com, the 30-year fixed rate is averaging 6.87%, which is down slightly from last week's 6.91%. The 15-year fixed is at 6.06, also down a little bit. Even jumbo loans have dipped. The 30-year fixed jumbo is sitting at 6.84%.
Yeah.
So while these changes are small, they really do add up. So
for sure.
On a typical home in Plymouth, for example, median price of $730,000, that 0.4% dip in the 30-year rate can save around $20 to $25 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but on principal interest, that total is over $6,000.
Yeah, over 30 years. I mean, with all those payments, that's a lot of money. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, that's great. Again, we talked a little bit about national news, but that's something that, again, the Fed kept rates the same this week. So typically they use that to fight inflation. So they raise the rates to fight inflation, or they drop the rates to, allow people to borrow money at a cheaper rate. So right now they're staying steady, even though, again, Trump wants it to be dropped so people have access to the money at a cheaper rate. However, with inflation being so high the last year, they chose to keep it the same. So something to think about there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think you've talked a little bit about that as well with like sentiment and different things like that, with how many people are interested in having the rates drop versus not. So, I mean, what have you seen on that?
Well, according to Bankrate's experts poll, 60% of the industry insiders think that the rates are going to stay pretty steady.
Yeah.
27% expect a slight increase, and just about 13 are calling for rates to drop. So
okay, I think what we've talked about almost every episode is that we kind of see a status quo in terms of the rates. I think that, for our market and things that we're seeing, inventory going up, rates staying the same, we'll try to get closer to a balanced market. It won't be as much of a seller's market that we've seen the last few years is kind of what we've talked about. So yeah, that's kind of what I've seen as well. Other stuff on CNBC and other national sites, I saw that mortgage demand dropped last week as well. Fell 3% for new home buyers applying for mortgages, and also 2% in refinance stuff. As well. So there was a drop again last week in that. A couple weeks ago, it increased, but we've talked about it a few times where it's actually decreased. So other than that, the only other thing I really wanted to bring up and kind of goes hand in hand with what you were talking about was the home builder sentiment. So the National Association of Home Builders have what's called the Home Market Index, and they actually do like surveys and talk to home builders across America and talk to them about like what their sentiment is. Right now it dropped again this past month to 32, and how they view it is at 50 is like median. Anything below 50 is considered negative. So we're at 32. It's pretty negative right now. And those same home builders, kind of again going hand in hand with what you were talking about with the price drops, the price changes. 37% of the home builders for new homes being built said they had to actually drop the price. So that is something that we're seeing kind of across the nation.
So we're kind of seeing it with new builds and with pre-existing homes.
Exactly. So a lot of good info for all that. And again, we're seeing it kind of locally, even though I feel like nationally there's a lot more inventory elsewhere. So we're still in a seller's market per se, more than elsewhere, but it's still starting to steady out here. Yeah. We always seem to lag behind because we're such a strong real estate market in terms of Massachusetts in general, high demand state. But overall, I feel like we're going to slowly catch up to where the nation is seeing a lot more inventory elsewhere.
Other places are they're seeing a ton of houses on the market.
There's a lot, so I mean, when there's a lot to choose from, the prices come down. So I mean, eventually they'll probably, it always goes like this, but it still goes up. So
definitely.
Yeah, great. That's a great mortgage minute. Why don't we jump right into the best part of the show, the good, the bad, the ugly, the real estate confessions or closing confessions as we call it. So we're going to talk about estate sales, probate sales, estate sales this week. Tanya, what's an estate sale? Well,
an estate sale in real estate terms usually means the property is being sold by heirs or a representative of someone who's passed away. It could also be someone who's downsizing or has moved into assisted living. Most often it's tied to settling someone's estate.
Yeah.
So the key difference is that the seller isn't, it's not a typical homeowner.
Right.
It's usually a family member, an executor. Sometimes it's even a probate attorney.
Yeah, attorney. Yeah.
That handles the sale, all the signing and all of that. And it comes with some unique challenges sometimes. Some delays, emotional decisions, even when there's multiple heirs involved.
A lot of arguing, a lot of fighting. They want to do it this way, the other one wants to do it this way. I've ran into that plenty of times.
It's tough to get everybody
on the same page. Yeah, absolutely.
So usually when a buyer hears estate sale, they often think that they're going to be getting a deal, but that's not always the case. Sometimes the home just needs updating. Sometimes the title's a little bit messy, that needs to get cleared up, and most of the time, it's just a regular sale with someone else's name on the paperwork.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see that a lot. And I mean, we're both dealing with some right now, but it's just obviously sad for the family usually. But it's something that they want to get the house sold, and it's a lot more steps involved. So
a lot of times it's a tough decision to sell their family's home. So,
I mean, you have a story about one that you're dealing with now, or
I do. Well,
just in
not
general?
Really recently, but at one point I had a family member that was getting ready to sell their mom's home.
Yep.
And she had just been moved into a memory care facility due to having advanced dementia.
Oh, yeah.
So they were all ready to sell the house. They wanted to get it on the market and get moving on it. But the home was still in her name, and since she couldn't legally make any decisions.
Yeah, the mental capacity to even do it. Yeah.
There was no power of attorney involved. So essentially, the daughter had to go to the court to get conservatorship. So, which that's it can be a lengthy process to get done.
Yeah.
Once she got the conservatorship, she was able to sign all the documents and move forward. But it can delay for a couple months sometimes.
I've had them go 8 months, 9 months. I mean, especially if there's fighting between the heirs and different things like that. I mean, it can be very difficult, especially when they're still alive. You're obviously happy they're still alive, but it's also a sad situation. But
there's a lot of emotions involved.
It's really tough, especially.
And they're still paying all the bills.
Oh, absolutely. So they want to get it done quicker so they don't have to have the carrying costs and stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It really showed me the importance to have those legal pieces in place
before
a crisis
wills,
actually hits.
Healthcare proxies, all that stuff that you should have. Absolutely. Yeah. Deal with an estate attorney and make sure everything's lined up for when that happens, if it happens.
Well, you've been in the industry quite a long time. You've got to have some insane stories.
I mean, I've dealt with a lot. I mean, I'm dealing with one now that actually is closing today as we speak. But
congratulations.
Thank you. That one, unfortunately, the gentleman passed away. It was a pretty straightforward from paperwork, and they already had the trustee already signed and ready to go. But the house, like you talking about carrying costs and like paying the bills, unfortunately, electricity off, heat was off, and a pipe burst. It's like, now we're dealing with a water issue and had to get, basically rip everything out of the house. But that was
a headache they didn't need, I'm sure.
It was something they didn't want to deal with. But nonetheless, that went through and that's fine. But probably the worst, or it's sad in all regards, but it was also one of the longer ones. It was like 7 months long. Woman passed away, and family, kind of no paperwork done, nothing done. People want it done this way. It took a while. It took a while from start to finish. So I go, once we get everything kind of squared away and ready to get listed, we list the house. We need court approval. Again, taking a while, arguing, whatever you want to call it. But I go to the house, list it, do open houses. We get it under contract. 4 months later, it's time to close. I go back for the smoke alarm certificate, go in the house. They had done a clean out, got all the stuff out, which is very common what you see. They go through, keep pictures and family heirlooms, but they get rid of all the other stuff that's been accumulated over the year by their relative. So they did that, but they didn't know or didn't find or didn't, there was an animal, a cat was hiding, must have been hiding. So when I came back to the house, this is months later, no one's been there, no one's living there.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, I found a dead cat.
Oh my gosh.
And scratch marks trying to get out,
awful.
like where it was trying to get out the door. And I'm like, I felt so bad. I was like, I don't know if you guys didn't know this, or maybe they thought it was outside or already,
it's tough when
it was
there's
already passed. They didn't know, you know what I mean?
There's so many moving parts in the sale. Like some family members just don't even know that there was a pet.
They might not even have known exactly. So unfortunately, it must have been hiding pretty good because there was nothing left in the house. It was just the cat, and I felt so bad. But I called them. I said, hey, this unfortunately there was a cat in here, and that was kind of a sad situation for the cat, obviously, and the family just losing a family member. But that was kind of the craziest one. And again, it took a really long time. I mean, the one I'm dealing with now was really fairly quick to get court approval. That one took a while.
So they must have had all their documents in place and everything ready to go.
The one I'm dealing with right now today, yes, they had everything was already set up and ready to go. So it was a lot easier to deal with.
Sometimes it's hard to have those conversations when you're with your aging parents.
Yeah.
But I think they're definitely important to have for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. So, I mean, what tips do you give your buyers and sellers? I mean, what do you typically tell people?
There are a few things that I walk through with my clients when there's an estate sale involved, whether they're the ones that are selling or they're the ones that are trying to buy. So for sellers, first, I make sure that they have the legal authority to act and sell and sign everything. That means smart. Being either court appointed, the executor, having a conservatorship, or if the property's in a trust, making sure that the trustee's ready to sign.
Yep.
Making make it a lot shorter and easier.
Yeah, that's again what we were just talking about. It's just if you have all that lined up, it makes it a lot easier to go get the license and sell from the court if you set up. You know what I mean? So
yes. Secondly, understand that selling a family member's home is an emotional process.
Very.
I always suggest having one clear point of contact.
Yep.
It kind of just helps things move a little bit smoother, and nothing kind of gets overlooked. And he said, she said kind of business.
Yeah, that's tough. Right? It's tricky, especially if there's a bunch of heirs or something. It could be like there could be a lot of arguing, a lot of button heads.
Everybody has an opinion.
You got to get 6 signatures versus one. It's very you're absolutely right. So
and finally, when it comes to pricing, I try to explain to them that we're looking at the comps and fair market value.
Yes.
It can be an emotional, people are tied to their family home.
It's so true. I mean, we got to be objective, and they're like, well, this house has been in our family for 50 years or 100. That's great. However, the furnace is also 50 years old, or the roof or whatever. So yes, it is very true. And, unfortunately that does come up, and I've had people tell me like, well, this sentimental value. I'm like, that's great. But unfortunately the next person doesn't have that sentimental value right now. They're not tied to it. So it's either you're going to buy it and agree with your heirs to buy it, or you're going to sell it for what these are the comps.
That's it. That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with buyers, if you're buying an estate property, the first thing I want to do is I want to check the legal status of the property. So
makes sense.
Is it in probate? Is there a trust? Has conservatorship already been granted? That can kind of tell how fast or how slow things are going to move. So it kind of sets those expectations up.
You got it. Because I mean, if your buyer's up against, selling their house, or if they're in a lease situation where the lease is coming up, it's like, listen, this isn't going to be a month. This could be 5 months. It could be 6 months. It could be 3 months.
Timing is important.
I can't tell you exact, but this is our best guess based on how much paperwork's been done.
Absolutely. So. Second, expect to do some updates. So a lot of times these homes are often older and haven't been maintained in a while, or even vacant for a long time. So
shag carpet.
Yeah. You see some groovy stuff. So expect to do some cosmetic fixes and just be ready for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. And again, when you're showing an estate sale in a house that hasn't been lived in a while, I mean, sometimes you need to have you either have to do cash or you have to have rehab loans or different things. It's good to know these things, what they'll qualify for financing.
Right.
Is the electricity off? Is the water running? Like things that your bank wants to see working. These are the things you kind of need to know too. So
that brings me to another point: is always get that full inspection.
Yeah, exactly.
These homes usually are sold as is too. So and the heirs or the trustees, whoever's selling the home, they likely haven't been in it a while, don't know how anything works or what's even there.
They don't know anything. Yeah, exactly. So they haven't lived there in years a lot of the time, and it's sold as is, just like you said. Absolutely. Actually,
which reminds me too, for sellers, it's always a good idea to do like a pre-inspection too, so you know what's there.
We talked about doing pre-inspections. You can definitely do that too. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. And finally, have some patience, because sometimes there's those delays, there's surprises that pop up during the process, and being flexible can go a long way.
Yeah, we see a lot of different things. I mean, title issues we kind of talk about sometimes, and that can pop up a lot. And if the person's not alive anymore to sign certain things that needed to be signed, then you have to go get approval to get this signed, and the trustee has to do certain things different. So yeah, a lot of that comes up. And one of the things I tell sellers to be cautious of or mindful of is the inheritance tax threshold.
That's right.
In Massachusetts, it's $2 million. So if you have a high estate, high net worth estate, or even the property itself, something to work with your estate attorney, work with your accountant, and try to figure it out. Because
those can be costly. Very costly.
So that's some great information, Tanya. It's a great episode. We really appreciate everybody tuning in and liking, subscribing, and tune in next week. And that's all we got this week. Thank you, guys.